would think that climbing a mountain could be a little bit easier because of technology. But what you're going to experience and find out in this video, it might be the opposite. Is what it ain't. It's your girl Umbrella, and I am back with another video. A little psycho, you feel me? Like a D-list movie. This is somebody that we should have heard about in school. What is going on with the school system? You guys are going to be shocked when I say what I'm about to say, okay? What it is, what it ain't, it's your girl Umbrella, and I am back with another video. This video is going to be really good. I'm excited. I'm back with another biopic series. If you are new to this channel, a biopic series is anything that is based on a true story. It could be about a person, a place, or a thing, just based on true events. So I'm going to base this video off of the movie Into Thin Air, Everest. If you're ready for me to get into the movie about Mount Everest that came out in 1997, please stay tuned. You don't want to miss out on this video. I'm really going to hip you guys to what's really going on and what really happened and why. Okay, so let's do it. Make sure that you guys like, comment down below, and subscribe to this channel and my other channel, Vlogs by Ombre. Vlogs coming soon. Okay, yeah. The vlogs are coming soon, okay? And they're going to be good, so make sure you guys stay tuned. I made sure to, of course, watch the movie Into Thin Air based off of the book Into Thin Air by John Crocker. He actually was an author that did do the climb on May 10th, 1996, Everest. He experienced tragedy up on the mountain. 15 total climbers died that day. Y'all know my birthday is May 11th, so I thought that this was, I thought that I had to do this video. To be honest, I kind of wanted to do this video last year, but I think for some reason I forgot about it or slipped my mind because there was more than one movie. The movie that I watched yesterday came out in 1997, but I saw a more recent depiction of the movie last year, and it was kind of the same essence. But this movie really, gives you that backdrop, that background that you want to know of why the tragedy of all these people getting killed on the mountain. Why did it happen? You know what I mean? Like, could it have been prevented? That's what we're gonna get into in this video, okay? Y'all gonna have to bear with me with the names because there are a lot of, interesting names, and I'm not really that good of pronouncing them, but they will be on the bottom of the screen. Just a little background. Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay were the first two men to climb to the top of Mount Everest in 1953. So in the 1950s, that's when the exhibitions of climbing the mountain started to happen. So fast forwarding to the 90s, technology is better. This is the 90s era was the first time we could do things via satellite. Phone calls could be, transmitted overseas. The internet first happened in the 90s as well, so technology is more advanced. So you would think that climbing a mountain could be a little bit easier because of technology. But what you're going to experience and find out in this video, it might be the opposite. The more prominent time of climbing the mountain was in the spring. So, because you can't do it in the winter, of course. It's just too cold. I believe Mount Everest is located in an Asian region. And during this season of climbing the mountain, 4 different exhibitions were happening. Just as a little bit of a background, 2 of the men named Scott Fisher and Rob Hall were the experienced climbers. So they've climbed Mount Everest before, but they never reached the top. So they were 2 of the men that were going to guide a lot of the other people. So a lot of the other people that were, of course, coming to the climb were inexperienced. So that was like the major thing, was that there was 4 different groups of people. So Rob Hall had his people, Scott Fisher had his people, And then there was a couple of other groups. Some of them were native to the area, so they knew of the legends of the mountain. They knew of the dangers, not just, about feet, thousands of feet in distance, and, what could happen to your body and things like that. All of that matters, but legend to me is everything as well. And there were people on the mountain that were climbing that knew of the legend and knew how to navigate spiritually to climb the mountain as well. So everybody had a different perspective. So we're talking about 4 different groups of people, lots of different backgrounds, culture clashes. I mean, is that not a recipe for disaster? I don't know. So, like I said, Scott Fisher and Rob Hall were the experienced guiders, among a couple of others as well that have climbed the mountain before but never reached the top. Guiders, of course, were getting paid thousands and thousands of dollars. I believe $65,000 per person to join the climb. So they were getting lots of money to assist these inexperienced people to climb the mountain. And just so you guys can get a gist of how inexperienced, there was a mailman. There was the author, of course, the author of the book and the narrator of the movie, John Crocker. He was just an author, a writer. There was a mailman, a writer, a dentist. There was 2 ski instructors, so some people that knew about snow. There was a wealthy socialite. There was an Asian businesswoman. And there was a weatherman. So that's just among a few people that joined the climb that had no idea what they were doing. So when you think about that and you think about these 2 experienced guiders and maybe a few more people that knew how to climb the mountain, that's not enough. It's not balancing out to me. That's like automatically a hell no. What I really took away from this movie, or what we're going to get into, is really the warning signs of what they could have paid attention to most before things, went down. The beginning of the movie, which I enjoyed, is that they start breaking down each camp. So they start with base camp, then they go to camp 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the top of Everest, of course. So each camp has its own struggles, right? I think people compare like struggles and obstacles to like climbing a mountain too, because each level has its own, struggles, right? Base camp is 17,600 feet. That's where they spent the most time like adjusting to the climate of the mountain. And right off the bat, they stayed there for 3 weeks. If you caught a cold, you were going to be sick the entire time you climbed the mountain. I mean, it just doesn't get any worse than that, actually getting sick at the bottom of the mountain and then having to climb the entire top, being sick and coughing. That alone can make you fall right off the mountain. So this is the time where they start getting adjusted. You could even see scenes of like the socialite lady. She had like a coffee or espresso machine in her tent, which was like, okay, are you really ready for this? I don't know. But this was when they were getting adjusted. They were really figuring out how to use the equipment, showing each other how to use the walkie-talkies, which automatically that didn't work. And they were showing people how to use like the oxygen and what signs to look out for. In one of the scenes, you could see some of the men that didn't speak English or natives of the land. They didn't know how to put the shoes on. One of the guiders and the instructors, he was just happened to walk past them, and he saw like that they had the spikes up, facing up. And I mean, they're supposed to be facing down because you have to, they have to be in the snow for you to be able to climb. But for them, it didn't translate. It didn't, they didn't know how to put the shoes on. So he had to stop and show them like, you have to turn it upside down. And he even mentioned like, I don't think you guys should be here. Because if you don't know that, if you don't even know something simple as like the spikes of the shoes, like even with cleats, like they're supposed to be in the ground, like so that you can run or whatever. So he was just like, if you don't know how to do that, then you shouldn't be here at all. So moving forward, Camp 1, 19,500 feet is when you start to lose oxygen. It's like you start to feel like your lungs have a lot of pressure on it. And that's at 19,500 feet. Camp 2 is when you're at 21,600 feet. So there's more pressure applied to your brain, which is edema. And they had syringes and chemicals that they could inject themselves with if they found it necessary to use it, of course, to reduce the swelling of their brain, so that it doesn't explode. We just at Camp 2, and it's already doing too much for me. I couldn't even go to Camp 1, to be honest. I wouldn't even go near the mountain in the first place. But, you know, I'm not here to judge, because a lot of people like doing stuff like that. But if it's all these side effects and all of this really bodily harm already, I mean, that's just a sign to me that this is not the right thing to do. 3 is 24,000 feet. And this is when your digestive system starts to go into starvation mode, and it starts to eat away at whatever's in your stomach, because you can't really eat. You know, there's no time to do all that while you're climbing the mountain. And when the pressure is applied, it's like you're hungry, you're irritated, and this is when the mountain starts to play tricks on you and you start to get annoyed. Camp 4 is 26,000 feet, and this is when you start to get careless and sluggish. You're exerting a lot of your energy. Like, if you don't pay close attention, if you don't keep your attitude in check, then you can easily fall off the mountain. Everest, of course, is 29,000 feet. So from 26 to 29,000 feet is 3 feet distance between Camp 4 and then the last tip top, Everest. This is when, you know, oxygen, you have to use oxygen to make it up the mountain. You cannot, like, moving from Camp 4 to the top of Everest, you cannot not use an oxygen mask. That's when it's like extremely required. You're not going to be able to survive without having oxygen at that point. Because there is none on the tip top of the mountain. Okay, so moving forward, warning signs. Okay, so there was a lot of warning signs, and it even started at base camp. The instructors and the guiders, they saw the warning signs and they ignored it. Ask me, I think that's the problem. Of course, someone that is inexperienced and doesn't know what they're doing, they're not going to be able to tell. This could be potentially dangerous. Of course, people like that aren't going to know, like, what to expect or what a warning sign is, but the guiders, the people that have been on the mountain before, saw the signs and they ignored it. And I think that's why they are responsible, and that they put all the innocent people, all the people that didn't know what they were doing, in danger. That's just, you know, what I'm going to say before. So the guiders saw that there were more people than last year. There was a lot of groups of people with very different opinions on how they wanted to approach climbing the mountain. And I feel like if they would have moved as a unit, even though they were separate and they all wanted to get to the top, and, you know, some of them were looking at it as a competition. At the end of the day, it's about survival, and it's about meeting the goal, but the goal should also be getting to the bottom. Like, to me, they focused too much on getting to the top of the mountain and not focused on how they were going to get to the bottom and get everyone down safely. I think that that's the problem, that they were too focused on getting up and not getting down. Lots of people were inexperienced with climbing and the equipment. A lot of people, there was one guy, he was carrying like 80 pounds of equipment up the mountain, and they kept telling him, take it off, it's too much. You're losing your strength, you're losing your oxygen, and he wouldn't listen. And then on top of that, I mean, they just didn't know what they were doing. You know, it would have been at least helpful for some of them to take a class or two before they even tried. But my thing is, like, you can't be inexperienced going and doing something that dangerous and then not listening to people that have done it before. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you not listening to the person that's the experienced person on this mountain? Like, why are you not listening? That was another thing. Okay, so the walkie-talkies didn't work. There was a lot of like static in between the walkie-talkies, and that's a very big problem because of what happened towards the end of the movie when there was the big storm. It's like communication. I can't even hear you. You know, it's a storm. You know, I mean, it wasn't snowproof. It wasn't waterproof. It wasn't that advanced. Okay, experienced climbers had different methods of climbing. So some of the climbers, of the guiders, I guess I should say, the ones that have climbed the mountain before, some wanted to use oxygen, some didn't want to use oxygen. Some of them felt like using something to get up the mountain was not you getting up the mountain yourself. It was like you had to use something to help you, which doesn't make any sense because you have to survive at the same time. It's like, if I have to, like, oxygen is required in life itself. So if I need oxygen to climb this mountain, I'm going to do whatever I can do to get the oxygen so that I won't die. Some of the guiders had a call time. So no matter where you were on the mountain, if it was 2 p.m. that day, May the 10th, if it was 2 p.m., they all had to turn around. When the ish hit the fan, they completely disregarded that. Even the person that it was his idea. It's like he disregarded it completely. Because he was so close to the top, he got greedy and he ended up, going back on his own word. And I mean, if you're not even going to do what you said you was going to do, then nobody's going to listen to you either. So the call time was 2 p.m. No matter where you were on the mountain, you had to turn around because as the day goes on, that's like, peak in the afternoon. But when the nighttime comes, anything can happen. So you literally cannot be on the mountain at night. Like, it's impossible to survive. And they knew that. So you need hours to get down that mountain. And if you're not down that mountain in maybe 3 hours, you're toast. So a lot of them, some people believed in doing that and some people didn't. Some of the guiders were like, I'm going to climb. I don't care what time it is. I'm going to get up this mountain. We're going to get to the top. It is what it is. So that was already bad. I feel like if everybody was on that same page and everybody turned around, then a lot of people wouldn't be dead. They stayed at base camp for 3 weeks. I don't understand why they did that, because they literally when they were at base camp for 3 weeks, then they climbed the mountain in like 3 or 4 days. Like, they took it day by day to get up the mountain. Like, each day they were at a different, the different base camps. So to me, it doesn't really make a lot of sense why they stayed at base camp so long. I also think that if they didn't stay at base camp so long, then they could have avoided the storm that happened. Like, because the storm happened when they were trying to get down the mountain. And if they would have gotten up the mountain a few days earlier, then they could have avoided that, because the storm was really what was preventing them from really getting down the mountain in the first place. So they could have still ran out of oxygen, but they also could have had more of a chance of survival if they would have gotten up the mountain a few days earlier. Some people started to get really sick, and some people even started to cough up blood, like after, being at base camp for so long. So that was like kind of interesting. And they made that a point. Like, if you get sick, like, you can't unget sick. So it is what it is. Like, you're just going to get worse. Like, if you're already sick at base camp, then you're going to get worse. And then another warning sign, some people just didn't speak English. And didn't understand English. And I think that, we all, I mean, to be fair, none of them are in America, which is understandable. But if we can't understand each other, and I'm not even going to say some of them didn't speak English. I feel like some of them weren't bilingual. Most of them weren't bilingual, meaning we can't understand each other. Like, it's not just that you don't know English, it's that I don't know your language, you don't know mine. So it's a culture clash, and it's really, really bad for communication. Like in one scene, a guider, he was climbing up a ladder and he had pulled the rope down and he was saying, wait, he was trying to tell the Asian lady, like, wait until I give you the signal to, then you can come up the ladder. And she didn't listen. So she didn't understand what he was saying. So she just started climbing. She almost fell off the ladder. It was just a whole thing. She was screaming to the top of her lungs, like, it was just really, really bad, okay? Because this is sacred land, and you know, when you have a culture clash or when you have people that just refuse to be open-minded, then you know, things like that get ignored, which is rude, disrespectful, and also could potentially lead to death. Like, everything isn't about science. Some shit is just spiritual, and you have to really open your mind to other people's lifestyles, especially when you're on somebody else's land. I feel like you should just release all your inhibitions and listen to what they're saying. Like, we're not in America, so open your mind to different things. When all of that happened at base camp and camp 1, so when they started to get to camp 2, someone lost their footing because they didn't have their like boots on. They had the like inside liner of the shoes, and they stepped outside of their camp and they literally slid right off the fucking mountain and died. It was like so fast. It shocked the fuck out of me, but it's just being careless like that, like, will make you really die. Like, it's really no joke. That's when people started to get more sick, coughing. Between camp 2 and camp 4, like, they saw skulls and dead bodies and, you know, jackets and skeletons. Some people did end up getting to the top, but then, like I said, the issue became getting down the mountain. So this video is getting pretty long, so I'm gonna have to make it a part 2 and maybe a part 3. People are still doing it to this day, so if you guys are interested in this topic, please follow this series right now. I'll be back in part 2, and make sure you leave your comments below for what you think was the big warning signs. What was the biggest warning signs to you about Mount Everest 1996 May 10th? Please comment below. Let's talk about this. I will see you guys in part 2. Peace.